Okay. Can you explain that?
So if the company itself gets paid more on these products, and then it filters down through a pay grid, which is how anyone in commission sales gets a percentage of what you sell a car, you don't get all the profit.
Sure.
The dealership gets some of the profit.
Right.
The GM gets the whatever.
Right.
It filters down.
Right.
So when it filters down, it's a little bit more, but it's not the full addition. So could it be advantageous for somebody to sell an FFIUL over another product? It depends. Other products sometimes have what's called higher targets, which means the gross amount that gets paid in, the gross amount is less, but the payout to the field is higher. You'd have to know the inner workings, and I could explain it if I had a lot of time with you, but once again, painting it with a broad brush is a blanket statement. You just get paid more, so everyone's going to sell. That isn't true. I've got offices that completely sell Nationwide or completely sell Voya. They don't sell Transamerica's products because we don't have to. I teach my people to do what's best for the client every time. Treat the client like it's your mom, and because they are somebody's mom, number one. And number two, the only business that pays is the business that stays on the books. So if you write somebody some business and it's not good, and they find out later and drop it, the agent gets charged back. They get commissions pulled on certain products if they don't stay on the books. So it serves us to put something in place that stays on the books, number one. And number two, repeat business, referrals. Nothing's better than a satisfied customer. And after 23 years, I've got a lot of satisfied customers. I've always done what's right for the client. And in my career, and I've done a lot of business, I've been around long enough to see these products fulfill their promise. I've been there when kids start going to college, and the 529 plan I started them out with is paying out. And they're using the money for college. And some of these annuities and other retirement type programs, I've been there when they start distributing the money as income to take care of somebody and supplement their retirement. I've been there at funerals with a death benefit check and been mailed death benefit checks in the hundreds of thousands of dollars tax-free because of insurance policies we've sold. So someone cannot tell me we're not doing good things for clients. I've been around too long and I've seen enough. The bad things is when a client doesn't save any money and they don't have enough life insurance and they devastate their family financially later. They don't prepare for college. College is getting expensive. Retirement is going to be more expensive than most people think. They got to save. So saving money first and then finding the right product is what you got to do next. And once again, there's no perfect product, but I think ours are really good.
One of the questions I wanted to ask you, this is not a question or a criticism that I read on the internet. It may be there, I just didn't see it if it is. But one of the questions we've gotten, or I've gotten personally, just as you know, I'm not a financial advisor, but I've written a few books around the concepts of money, the psychological concepts of money. And so people associate me with that topic sometimes. And they know I've been involved with you guys as a vendor for so many years. So long story short, I've probably gotten 200 or 300 emails literally in the last 3 or 4 years, I guess, about asking me for my fan base. People read my books and they know about you guys. And they either were approached to be a client of WFG or an associate of WFG or both. And they say, well, how do you feel about, would you give me any advice about me going into WFG or being a client of WFG, just because the idea that they're not fiduciaries. They don't, in other words, as you know, but just for the listening audience if they don't know, they don't have to, you guys don't have to, by law, do what's right for the client. You probably would, but you don't have to by law, whereas a fiduciary obviously does. You're operating more under a suitability standard than a fiduciary standard. How do you, for people that are asking that, I've never really known how to, because I'm a fan of WFG, so I've never really known how to answer that question. So usually I don't.
Well, and there's different degrees of licensing too. I mean, some people just have their insurance license, and some people have their securities, and some people have their Series 65. Some come to us from Edward Jones and they have their 7. So some people have acted as fiduciaries before and have been in that industry. And I'll tell you that a lot of the higher end business and investment grade business ends up in the hands of a fiduciary eventually, and someone's responsible for that. I know for a fact nowadays we're way more responsible for all of our recommendations than ever before when I started 23 years ago. But I'll also tell you how many people have invested with other firms, and I'm not talking about financial firms. Somebody told a private placement, or they've put their money somewhere and they lost their money in a real estate deal with a friend. Them and their neighbor bought a house that they were going to flip, and they put all this money in and it didn't flip, or someone ran off with the money. I think everyone needs to be more cautious with their money in all respects. And that's where the education once again comes in. Just because you have a title of fiduciary and someone else is under suitability, in my opinion, me as a consumer, buyer beware. I think everyone always has to be a little more, I have to be more careful with my money and what I do. And I've had people look me square in the eyes and tell me I could trust them, and they proved otherwise.
Sure.
And so let's be real. Is there any safe place? You put your money under your mattress and then your house gets broken into, right? You could put your money in a safe and your house burns down and it didn't have a fire rating of 2 hours. So you can't insure your money. Banks have their limits on what FDIC covers. Investment companies have SIPC in their realm to cover some things. But at the end of the day, we have to be the ones who watch over our money. We can't put either the responsibility to protect our money or know all about it on anyone else besides ourselves at the end of the day.
Okay, let me ask you in a different way, kind of a different angle. Let's say, because this is another objection that we've gotten emails about over the years, and I just always wanted to ask you about this, and I never have over all the years. Not sure why. Okay, let's say that I've been approached about WFG, and by a 20-year, you're approaching me about WFG, but you're a 22-year-old associate, you just got out of college, or maybe you didn't even go to college. Maybe you're a high school dropout even. Let's take it that way. Okay? You're 22 years old. I'm 53 years old, and I say, why would I either put my financial well-being, let's say, part of it at least, in the hands of a 22-year-old high school dropout, let's say, for fun. How much can a 22-year-old know about money, for one thing, unless they got a finance degree from Wharton or something like that? But even if they do, I wouldn't personally trust that person, because as you know, there's a lot of nuances to finance that you can't learn in school. You learn over time, right? Okay. So walk me through that. I mean, because a lot of people say that, well, this is a 22-year-old kid. Why would what does a 22-year-old kid know about money? And by the way, he's broke, and he told me he's broke, or she's broke. So I don't have the confidence. Give me the confidence to say yes.
I don't know that I would. You want a straight answer? I would say bring me to the most successful financial advisor in your office. There's got to be someone you could bring me to that has more financial experience and acumen than you do in your firm.
Does that happen? Do people do that?
Sure. I get all the big cases. My guys go out there, and it depends which office. When I say my guys, I've got hundreds of offices.
Right.
But in the one I run, and I do still run an office, my newbies, my people that just got their license, the ones that just don't have a lot of experience, anytime they run into somebody with a financial portfolio or somebody that has a lot of assets, or somebody that, like you, the perfect example is what you said. I would want that 22-year-old to bring you to me, and a lot of times they suggest that. They say, would you mind if I bring in one of the experts? Would you mind if I bring in somebody with more experience? And then you and I would meet, and although I'm a lot younger than you.
I'm going to have to do some research on that one.
You might have to.
The South Side guys, you got to watch them all the time, you know.
You do.
Sox fans.
But being about almost 48 years old, having 5 children and owning homes and having a decent portfolio myself, we'd be speaking on the same level, and you'd appreciate that more.
Right.
Now, if that same 22-year-old goes and talks to their friend who's 27, just had a kid and has no life insurance, why not do business with them? They don't have any savings, no life insurance. They have a kid. They know they need life insurance. Why not do business with that person? You know, but I don't know that I would sit with somebody And forget me being in the financial industry. If I was a 53-year-old man with some assets, I think I would probably want somebody more experienced. And I would ask them if they have somebody else in their office that has a little more experience and expertise to look at my portfolio.
How about on the recruiting side, in terms of the person's same scenario, but now I'm the 53-year-old prospect, let's say, and then what do I say to the 22-year-old is, you're not making any money in this business. You got in 2 weeks ago. You're not even licensed, or you just got life license, let's say. Why would I get into the business part with someone that's not made any money out of it's brand new? How do you overcome that objection?
You don't have to be a master chef to know some good taste in food. And that person might not yet be successful, but they might know that this is a good company and might have seen some things that wowed them. And as long as they just tell you, and this is what I teach my people to say, I ran into a company and it looks fantastic. They can do this, this, and this, but they're taking the attention off of themselves. Because I don't think if you're not accomplished yet and you haven't made a lot of money yet that you shouldn't say that you have. I don't believe in fake it till you make it, frankly.
Right.
there's a lot of people who do that in life.
There's just too many.
And I think it's a deception.
Yeah.
And now with the internet and social media, gosh, there's more of it than ever out there.
Especially because you guys have such a successful model, you don't need to do it.
If you got something that's good, you don't need to oversell it.
Right.
And I can't say our people don't oversell. Of course they do. They're young. Some of them have never sold anything before.
Every
and
industry
excited.
oversells, though, right?
They're excited.
Right.
Sure. But I will tell you this, that new person might just be bringing you to the firm. The guy who introduced me to the company was still part-time. So how can he say, come follow me and do what I do? But he didn't. He said, come meet this guy, Greg Kapp, and see what he says.
Because I'm surprised you didn't push back on that, since you were in the business. And as you said, you know how to read and interpret the policies, which is rare, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm surprised. Did you push back on that, on the guy being part-time? And
no, because he wasn't claiming to be the one to follow. He just said, this is a great company. It's a great opportunity. You ought to look more into it. Let me introduce you to somebody who's been around a little longer that has more expertise.
Did he stay with the company?
Not that long. He was there for about another year and a half after I started.
Oof, that was costly.
Yeah, he should have probably. I think most people. I don't know why people feel they need to quit. Honestly, a lot of people do, but I don't know why they do.
You don't have any monthly requirements, right? It's
very little. When you're a licensed agent, you have to have E&O insurance.
Okay.
To cover
errors and omissions.
Errors and omissions in case you make a mistake. And
right.
There's things out there for that. But the cost to me is less than your cell phone bill.
That's not expensive.
It's less than your cable bill.
Right.
To carry your license forward, every so often someone could find, if someone found 1 or 2 sales a year,
right,
it would pay for their carrying cost of just holding that license.
Sure.
Till later, when either they mature more, their career takes a bad turn. I think you ought to have a safety net in your life, a plan B,
sure,
an exit strategy in case your job's not there. If someone has a job, they shouldn't be too comfortable, because at any moment they could lose that job.
Absolutely. Especially now with the disruptions in industry. Everything is changing every day.
Yeah, and they say the time to repair your roof is when the sun is shining, not in the middle of a storm.
Sure.
Most people don't start looking for a new career or a plan B until plan A is demolished. Well, why don't somebody should have just a side, I think not necessarily this. Everyone should have a plan B running even when they're in plan A, especially if it's a job that someone else controls.
Sure.
An entrepreneur, I don't necessarily think so. I think being singularly focused will give you the optimal chance of success. If you own a business, you shouldn't do 3 things at once.
Sure.
If you're an entrepreneur. But if you have a job, I think everyone with a job, even if you're a CEO of a firm, should probably have a plan B, because they get fired too.
Sure. One of the questions I always wanted to ask you, being so high up in the company as you are, is I've always been kind of surprised at how low a percentage of people that sign an AMA, sign up with a company, get at least life licensed. I think it's now under 6%, if I'm correct, company wide. I know in the various organizations it's different. But why is that? Why do so few people, they get excited and then they just don't even get licensed? I've never understood that.
Yeah, so it's not a secret. When people come in, it's made very clear that they need to get licensed in order to get paid. So number one, it's not a secret.
And it's not that expensive, correct?
A couple $100 in most states. It's a few $100s. It's not. I've had one book at college that cost $300.
Yeah, really, no kidding. Yeah.
Then you turn it back in at the bookstore and get $25 back.
Yeah. That's the business we should be in. Is the book, used book sales at school and colleges. Yeah.
So to me, a few $100 and passing a multiple choice quiz is not a hard thing to do.
And they do it online now, correct? It's different.
Most states.
Most states online.
Most states, the study part is online. Some you still have to attend a class. But I'll tell you this, it comes down to the same thing. Any time somebody complains or has a criticism about our success ratio, how many people really get licensed, how many people really make money, how many people do it, I've got an answer for that. And people don't love the answer, but it's a true answer. And the answer is most of the people that we bring aboard, maybe we shouldn't. Maybe other financial companies wouldn't give them a chance. We just happen to believe in people. So we extend an opportunity where most people wouldn't. That person who doesn't have the college degree, that doesn't come from the financial industry, that doesn't pass a 400-question profile test to see if you could sell this stuff, which most financial firms have. I had to pass a 400-question test at my former firm just to proceed with the interview, not to get hired, just to go forward. We don't have that. We believe in people. We think anybody with a little personal development, a little encouragement, the right environment has a chance. So we give more people a chance than maybe we should. So guilty is charged on that one. We probably shouldn't give everyone a chance, but we do. And a lot of people, frankly, are not hardworking. Too many people out there, they get started and face a little criticism and they immediately quit and they want to be comfortable. So they go back to their comfortable spot at the job they don't like that much, that doesn't pay them what they're worth. But they just say, I could tolerate that. I can't tolerate rejection. You've written books on approval addiction, I believe. And we've used that training because it's a fact. People from birth want to have approval. They want to be loved and have approval. And so when they get a no in any sales position, that's why most people don't sell anything, because they don't want to engage in that situation where they might face disapproval. And you've got solutions for that for people. I think they ought to take your advice, and a lot of people who do. But I'll tell you, in my personal opinion, the ratio of licensing is low, not because the test is hard and not because people don't try it. It's just a lot of people sign up for things nowadays and don't even take step one. And that's what happens here too. People join things nowadays all the time and they don't take one step towards applying themselves to it. A friend of a friend introduced them to something. They signed up for it and never followed up.
Just a follow-up question to that, Jeff, while we're on this topic. As you know, better than I do, of course, some of the organizations within the WFG structure have much higher life licensing or licensing rates, let's say, than others. Some are, 20, 30, 40%, and some are 2%. Why is that?
I think you can look at a mathematical equation from different angles. I think the ones with higher recruiting rates, just like you take any big financial firm, or insurance company, Northwest Mutual, almost 100% of the people they recruit get licensed. Why? Because they have to. It's not a choice. People saw the movie Pursuit of Happiness and things like that. Most firms that are in the securities industry, you have one shot. If you fail, you're fired. You're out. So they give some sort of short-term draw of commission without a license or some sort of little pay during the 6-week training period. Right. You pass the test or you're fired. Well, people are independent contractors here. We can't fire an independent contractor, so we also can't make them get licensed. So
you couldn't make it a requirement of, say, signing an AMA where, because that almost wouldn't that help almost?
It would. But the more you require somebody to do anything, the more they become an employee. Sure. We don't require people to do things. We suggest it.
They can't really make much money without it, though, can they?
No.
Yeah.
But we say that.
Right.
But it's still up to them.
Sure.
If they choose not to go forward with their licensing, then they don't. But firms that mandate it because the person is an actual employee, well, they have a higher recruiting ratio. And we give a lot of people a shot that probably wouldn't have gotten a shot in this industry at all. And they really aren't that interested after all. But so they don't proceed with their licensing.
Okay. How do you reconcile, though, an organization that has a 2% licensing percentage compared to an organization that's a 50%? I mean, that's a huge gap.
Some offices don't recruit very much. If an office recruits one new agent a month, well, getting that agent license is their directive. I mean, that's all they have to work with. While some offices extend this opportunity to hundreds of people a month, and of the hundreds of people a month that get started, a lot of them immediately they call sign and die, which means they sign up and they just die off right away because they don't want to do it.
You don't think it's because some people, as you know, again, you know all these objections better than I do. You hear them all the time. But just as doing and the research I've done for 15 years on you guys, some people say, well, the reason is because the offices that have a 2% licensing rate have really hard sold the people to sign an AMA to get in. They've pushed them. They've had you guys have contests. The company has contests sometimes. And some of the critics will say, well, they push to win the contest. The big leaders do. The contests, I mean. And as a result, they get a lot of people in that didn't really want to get in, maybe, and they were hard sold to get in. And now, of course, they don't get licensed because they were hard sold anyway. You never see them again. But the leader won the contest. How do you, I know, again, you've heard this before.
I could see somebody saying that. And, all I can go back to again is people know they can't get paid unless they're licensed. They know that coming in. If someone doesn't say that to people, I think there's an issue. But we do have a lot of offices and a lot of independent contractors, and to withhold that information wouldn't be a good thing. So I believe people know they have to get licensed. I just think here's the problem, and here's my opinion on this. This business should cost a lot of money like a franchise to get started.
Right.
People treat things based upon how much they pay for it.
I agree with that, yeah.
If you find a piece of clear glass this big on the ground, you're going to treat it like a piece of garbage and throw it away. If you find a diamond that big on the ground, they're about the same size. You could see through them. They're both clear. But if you find one of these and you know that thing is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, you're going to treat it different than this.
Sure.
People pay $100 to take a further look at this business, and they treat it like that. They treat it like a $100 business. I got into this business and treated it like $1 million business. And then it paid me $1 million. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And unfortunately, because there's not a high hurdle to get in, there's not big, heavy interviews and massive personality questionnaires and hoops that people have to jump through. It's so easy, the point of entry. And maybe that's where the problem is. We shouldn't be so easy on the point of entry. We should spend more time there. Then a lot less people would get involved in the first place. And here's what you risk: finding that one diamond in the rough. Finding that one person that didn't think they could do this who ended up being one of our senior most leaders and success stories. If you actually go back and look at the stories of most of our most successful people, I'm the rare one because I have a finance degree from college.
Sure, right.
Most of them have all different backgrounds. One was a tennis coach in college. One was in construction and had to go back and get a GED later. And I'll tell you what, I'd put these people now against any CEO in any corporation in America because they've worked on themselves so much since then that they can compare with about anybody from any Fortune 500 company at their board of directors table. But most people would have never given those folks a chance. So I think that, I think once again, the problem is how many people are you giving a chance to every month? And our company gives a lot of people a chance, and maybe that's our fault, is we shouldn't do that. And because we do, and many people are not ready or willing to take the next step, which is getting licensed, maybe they ought to think more about that before. But it's $100. People go out to dinner, get a glass of wine. $100 later, they don't think anything of that.
Right.
3 days later, they don't even remember that meal. Here they get they put in $100. They get around a bunch of good people. They get a good recommended read list of books they get introduced sometimes for the first time to personal development. And we take a good look at their finances and try to help them out there too. And I think if that's all they got from the $100, I think it would be worth it. But I also believe that this is $1 million business and that people ought to treat it as such and immediately get licensed and stick to their guns and handle some rejection and learn sales and learn financial planning and do a great job for customers, make a business out of this. It's been a great business for me. You're asking me, the guy who has been very successful and loves this company and has spent so much time, and I love my clients and my customers, and I care about them. And a lot of them are friends and family, but many more of them are not. But they're somebody's friends and family, and I care about them. And so I love our company, I love our products and services, and I love our system. But it's criticized a lot by people who don't understand it and that don't have something better to offer up.